It's setting up the Facebook Live, it says. So. Well, I am not seeing us on Facebook here. Just a second.
Top corner says live on Facebook, but
Yours does? Okay. I should be able to see us, but I'm not seeing us on Facebook. So let's just assume we are live then. Darn. Well, I can't see the Facebook, so I will just stay live on Facebook. So let's just assume that we're live on Facebook. This is new to me, this technology, so hopefully this is all working for us. I'm Annette. I work, I'm an outreach counselor for COVID Recovery Iowa. You might see it says Mandy Guess Me. I'm not Mandy. I'm filling in for Mandy today. With me is Ben from Friends of the Family. Thank you for joining us, Ben.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Can you give us just a little synopsis of what Friends of the Family is?
Yeah, so Friends of the Family, our mission here is to make sure that we are able to provide crisis intervention and housing to survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, or housing. So not to get too confusing, because sometimes when we talk services, it does, but I would start with in 14 counties in Iowa, including Black Hawk, Lynn, and Dubuque, and then pushing up to the Minnesota border, so kind of the Howard, Winneshiek, Alameda. We are the provider for domestic violence shelter. Somebody that needs to escape a violent relationship would give us a call on our crisis line. Give that number here, and we'll give it again later at the 1-800-410-7233, where we'd be able to talk with them and do an assessment about what would be their path to get out of that relationship, or to seek safety in the moment if it was needed. So we have a 21-bed shelter that's located in Waverly that we're able to help people with when fleeing. And then we also will use resources in the local community, whether it be another shelter or hotels, something along those lines, to help survivors who need to flee domestic violence. With that program, we also try to provide some housing assistance for someone fleeing also. So if someone was homeless because of domestic violence, they were in a situation where they were fleeing, and they didn't want to, we want to try to avoid that homeless piece as much as possible. We would be able to provide 3 to 6 months of rent and utility assistance for a family or an individual that was coming out of that domestic violence relationship. To help them kind of stabilize and get back up on their feet, and get them rapidly rehoused back into permanent housing. So all those units are private market with landlords. We'll help people find units, and then we'll assist with that rent and utilities. So that's kind of a piece of what we do in the 14 counties. Along with that, we're a comprehensive human trafficking program. So we can provide services to an individual that is coming out of a trafficking incident, that is looking to escape a trafficking incident. We can provide services for them along a whole wide path, whether it be legal, whether it be family reunification needs, anything that a survivor of trafficking may need, we would be there and able to provide for them moving forward. So that's kind of our victim service side. In a much broader area. So overall, Friends of the Family covers 27 counties, heading into north central Iowa, and then back into northeast, and like we said, kind of Lynn, Benton, Jones being the furthest south for us. We are also a homeless service provider in 9 rural counties in northeast Iowa: Butler, Bramer, Chickasaw, Fayette, Clayton, Howard, Winneshiek, Alameda. And then over into north central Iowa, the Mason City area and 5 surrounding counties, we are able to provide up to 2 years of rental assistance for a homeless family or individual that is in need. And so when we're talking homeless, we're talking about people coming out of a shelter, those that are on the street, those fleeing domestic violence. It's not our doubled up population, unfortunately, but we're able to provide kind of a medium-term rental assistance in that area. We also have a permanent supportive housing program in those same 9 rural counties in Northeast Iowa, which is a very long-term rental assistance program, just to help people get housed, get them back on their feet, and provide case management and supportive services. Like I said, it gets really confusing. There's a lot of things we do. But then with COVID, we've been given a lot of funds through the federal government to also provide homeless prevention and rapid rehousing in many different counties. So that's where that 27 counties comes in. Somebody that's facing homelessness or facing eviction, if they come through, we do an assessment through our crisis line. We can get them placed on what's called coordinated entry and work with them to talk about what is that intervention that will help them successfully navigate through either preventing the eviction or going from homeless to housed very quickly. What I tell people in the end, to really boil it down, is friends of the family's niche is housing. That's what we do over any one of our counties, is we provide housing assistance for people.
So with that new COVID, is that's not necessarily if you're already not if you're already homeless or coming out of a domestic abuse, fleeing. It could also be preventing people from getting to that homelessness part.
Yep.
Okay.
There's homeless prevention dollars there. Like I said, a lot of what it is it's assessments through the coordinated entry system, which is statewide. But people can call us through our crisis line, that 1-800-410-7233, where we're able to take an assessment and kind of figure out, get them onto the coordinated entry list, and then start to see where do they fall into being pulled and moving in. There's a lot of regulation to go into when we talk about the ESG dollars, emergency solutions grants, and the rapid rehousing and homeless prevention side.
Okay. How have you seen COVID affect what you guys do with the homelessness, domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking? Has COVID affected that differently than what you see in the past, or?
Yeah, for us as a shelter provider, it really required us to pivot in how we were going to provide shelter for people during the pandemic. We wanted to be able to create a socially distanced, safe environment in our shelter. Keeping in mind, it's a pretty small shelter, 21 beds, it's communal living. Many times people are sharing bedrooms with people. So we tried to go to a little bit stronger hotel response for people. And that really, what we found really started to create some stress for us as an agency, because at points we were hoteling 25, 30, 35 families at one point in time that were escaping violence. But through the pandemic, what we saw is things were really slow up front. When the governor had placed a lot of restrictions here in the state, people weren't calling, they were staying in their home. They weren't necessarily looking for that crisis intervention. But as the state opened up around May, I think it was May, June, we started to see a real escalation in the number of calls for service. And that really held strong up until probably the last 3 to 4 weeks, where we saw a real need. And now we're seeing that build on the homeless side of people that just need rental assistance to be able to stay in their home, right? With the ability to have a job and be employed right now is very difficult. We know many people are potentially facing eviction or issues when it comes to rent. So our expectation is, as that moratorium lifts, I think it's been moved to January 30th now, where people can't be evicted if, under certain circumstances, that we'll start to see that escalate in first quarter of next year, between January and March.
So the rental assistance would get more. Do you see a decrease then in the people fleeing domestic violence?
I don't know if we've seen a decrease necessarily, but we're seeing other resources being available to help people not necessarily need to come into shelter, right?
Okay.
So our top priority as a shelter program is to keep people out of shelter, because we know it's always best, right? Going into a communal living setting, being in shelter is, nobody would necessarily choose to want to be in a shelter. So we try to do our best to divert people and help them kind of see where their other options lie, but also talk about what does that rental assistance piece look like that could keep them, you know, from kind of entering that system. We always talk internally about shelter as a process and housing as a solution, and we want to stay solution focused with people.
I like that. Shelter is a process. I like that. So if there was one thing that you think that parents or people might need to know now about your services and COVID, and is there anything?
Yeah, I would tell people, if you're in a situation where your safety is at risk, make that phone call. Providers are out there. They're ready to help. They're ready to serve, to give people an opportunity to find safety. So make that phone call. But secondarily, if you're in a situation where you're fearful of eviction, or you're kind of in that homeless situation, there's lots of resources out there. Don't wait till the last second to reach out and get help. Know that the eviction moratorium is in place, and educate yourself on how can you protect yourself and your family from being evicted in this time frame. But also understand that when that moratorium lifts, the money that's owed is not going to go away. So it could end up, right, if February 1st comes and that moratorium is not extended, you could be evicted. So I would just very much encourage people to think about getting a hold of their local providers through coordinated entry, and look at that homeless prevention side to see if there's ways people can help them stay housed. It's always much better to stay housed than it is to enter the homeless system.
Right. So start early is what you're telling people.
Yeah. Don't wait. I know many people want to figure it out for themselves, and everyone out there is so resourceful and trying to figure out their own situations, but sometimes don't wait. Get the ball rolling so that you can prevent that eviction from happening. And
the services are there to help you.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Anything else that you want to, we're kind of right at that 15-minute mark here. Anything else that you want to mention to us? No, I thank you guys for taking a few minutes to let me come on and talk. But again, if you need to, reach out to us. 1-800-410-7233 is our crisis line number. If we can't help you, we'll try to get you to the right place. There's lots of resources across the state that are looking to help. Yep. Thank you, Ben. And again, I'm from COVID Recovery Iowa. You can also reach out to us. We can be an entry point to help get you to these other resources as well. COVIDrecoveryiowa.org. Our phone number is 1-844-775-9276. Thanks again, Ben. All right. Thank you. Yep. Bye-bye. Bye.